Hey guys, it's Justin Goff, and I'm here with Copy Accelerator member Jazz Courtenay. So we're going to talk about how Jazz went from making $10,000 a year to $72,000 a year as a copywriter. He's got a pretty interesting story. We're going to break down exactly how he did it. Jazz, first thing I want to chat with you about is everybody usually has a pretty interesting story of how they got into the direct response industry. I know you were doing some closing, phone sale closing for Dan Locke and some other big name people. I'm curious how you kind of stumbled into that kind of got you started.
So I closed for Dan Locke after closing for a few other influencers, so I had to work my way up to that one. But I got into closing. It was funny because I got into closing from a financial crisis that happened in 2017. I was at a live event, um, and I don't want to name the influencer because it's not his fault, but it's uh, basically he sold a. I think you actually spoke at that event. He sold a mastermind where he was pitching, it was a copywriting mastermind before a copy accelerator. It was $1,000 a month. I was like 18 at the time or 19 at the time. And he basically convinced me, I was in the room, to join the $1,000 a month mastermind that I couldn't afford at the time. I literally took the $1,000 that I was going to use to, I was actually in between leases at the time. So I was going to take that $1,000 to put the security deposit down. And I ended up putting it into the mastermind. I don't know what I was thinking. And I was like, you know what? That's what. The promise to the mastermind was in 100 days, you were going to make 6 figures a year as a freelance copywriter. That was the promise of the mastermind. It was a really big promise. So I was so convinced. I was like, yeah, I don't care. Like, I'm going to be making 6 figures in 100 days. So I can handle whatever happens in the next 100 days. And then, so I flew back home. And since I didn't have any money, I ended up situating basically how I was going to live. So I spent the next 6 weeks just living out of my car, and I was a personal trainer at the time too. So every day I was waking up, I was taking a shower at the gym, I was training my personal training clients, and in between client sessions, I would actually be handwriting copy. I'd be handwriting sales pages like 4 hours a day, reading copywriting books like Tested Advertising Methods, Ultimate Sales Letter. I would just do that every single day because it was literally like write copy or die. That was the situation. I put my back against the wall, um, and eventually I dropped out. Like, I think I did that for a month, and then I dropped out. And then I ended up talking to my mom on the phone, and she ended up giving me some money to move to a new place. But basically, I tell that story just because that was the first time I ever been in such a like a true dire financial situation, and I realized wow, I can't believe I was so broke that I had to live out of my car for 6 months. It was truly a traumatic experience. I was like, nah, I can never ever. I just need to not be broke anymore. Like, that was just a commitment I made. So in 2018, I called up one of my friends, and at the time, this was before he worked for Dan. Also, it was Ed Ray, who you might know of, and people watching this might know of. I asked if he could just help me out with copywriting because I knew that he did freelance copywriting, and he was like 17 at the time, and he was like, "Sure, we'll get on calls every week. I'll tell you to do some copywriting assignments. You submit it to me because I just wanted some kind of coaching after dropping out of that mastermind to just keep me on track." Um, and so that's what we were doing. Every week we were getting on the phone. He was telling me to handwrite these bullets. It was kind of the same pace I was doing with the mastermind. But then a few months into it, he was like, "Okay, um, I recommend that you learn closing because you also need to learn how to get clients. So you need to learn how to have close conversations on the phone with them and close them on your products and product." Um, and that's when I joined Dan Locke's program to learn how to close high ticket deals. And what that was it teaches people how to close high ticket deals, but it was also a business opportunity. So I figured I might do that on the side on top of, pursuing copywriting. And what's interesting is I ended up just doing freelance closing for the next few years just because I really liked getting on the phone and getting to know people. I guess it was just a natural personality meshed with the freelancing. But
Yeah, I would say, I mean, you're pretty talkative, extroverted kind of guy.
yeah. So I ended up really liking closing. That's how I got into working with Dan eventually. So that's the long answer.
So you got into that, and so basically you're doing a eat what you kill kind of thing. I'm assuming whatever
Exactly.
sales you make is the money you make, correct?
Exactly. No salary.
Right. And so you're selling these high ticket packages, courses, stuff like that. I'm kind of curious, what did you learn? Did you learn a lot about sales and people's objections and stuff like that from the calls?
Honestly, that was probably the best education on sales I ever got, was just being on the phone 12, like talking to 12 people a day and seeing why they buy things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine because I mean you hear every objection. When you're writing a sales letter, it's tough to know exactly what the objections are. You have to be really good at anticipating what they could be, or you have to go through all the customer service Q&A to figure out what it actually is. But when you're actually talking to someone one on one, you hear the objections very loudly, and the same ones. I would assume the same ones probably came up over and over again.
Exactly. Yeah. That was the biggest thing I learned, is like why people don't buy. And definitely helped me as a copywriter for sure.
So you were doing this. You said, I think you said the most you made in a year doing the closing was like 10K. Is that right?
Yeah, because I worked pure commissions. So honestly, that was more. I think the more the I don't regret doing that at all, because it's the education I got from it. Like, one, the sales education, but also the people I work with also let me have full access to their programs, and I work with a lot of marketers. So I actually learned a lot about marketing while doing closing. So that, but yeah, it was pretty financially tight. I was not taking off as much as I thought I would.
Yeah. So I'm curious, were you still doing personal training at the time? Were you doing something else to supplement that? Or were you actually living on $10,000 a year?
So I got that when I stopped training. So that's actually a great question. So this is what happened. I used to live in Tallahassee when I was about 19, 20, and then when I turned 20, my lease expired, and then I moved back to my parents' house. Moved out of Tallahassee, and I left all my personal training clients behind. And what that allowed me to do was just, I can make 10 grand a year and still have a bed to sleep in at night. So that's what I did in 2018. Is I was back in my parents' place, and I was just working from the spare bedroom, doing closing for
Nice.
like, yeah, that's what I did.
It's honestly not a bad idea. Like when Tanner and Alec, the two guys that I mentored, they came and lived with me for a year. Tanner was sleeping on a futon and Alec was sleeping on a blow up mattress in my loft for a year. Like, not a comfortable living situation whatsoever, but the fact that they were pretty driven to learn from me and pretty driven to figure this stuff out. So a year of that was worth it. I think in certain situations, that type of thing can be worth it. I mean, especially at 18, 19, it's not a huge deal when you're 18 and 19 years old. If you're 35, be a little different.
It's a lot different.
Yeah. So, okay, let's go to, I'm curious how you made the transition from doing the closing, you're doing somewhere around 10K a year, to getting into copywriting. Was that kind of something that you and Ed talked more about, or was it more like you following all the marketers that you were selling for? How did that kind of happen?
So what's interesting is, like, that was probably the best move of 2020, was deciding to just be a freelance copywriter, because I got back into it around October of 2019, and I was like, you know what, like, writing copy is super fun. Like, not only do I like copywriting, but it's like, well, not only am I good at it, but I also like it. I was really good at closing, but sometimes it wasn't that fun for me, and I realized, like, that's a really big value for me. Like, I had to be having fun, and I wasn't having fun doing the closing anymore. Like, it just wasn't fun anymore. So in 2020, around March, I quit, and then I just decided to just be a full-time freelance copywriter. Like, for a few months, you know what actually happened in January? I heard you speak at a live event, and you gave some copywriting advice. You said to just do three things. You said to write every day. You said to go to copywriting events and just have samples of your copy ready from writing every day. That's how you get good. And that's literally what I was doing for 3 months leading up to that. I quit. And then the next month, April, I went to a live event. I showed him a sample of my copy. After the event, he gave me a phone call, and he's like, "Hey, can you write some stuff for us? I'll pay you $1,000." And he hired me, and that was my first client in April for $1,000. So that was a testament to that method. It really worked. And I tell people that all the time. Like, anytime someone's like, "Hey, how do I get my first client?" I just keep linking them to that YouTube video of, like, here, just watch Justin's speech. It really works. Like, it really works. That's all I did.
That's awesome to hear, man.
Yeah.
I'm curious, the first client you got, were you writing long form sales letter? Were you writing emails? Like, what did you actually do for them?
So that was website copy and it was some emails. So it was kind of a weird mix, but that's what they needed. They had an ecom site for a beard oil product. So I wrote some product descriptions, and then they also wanted to do a promo. So I wrote them an autoresponder.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm curious from there. So you got the first gig, you made your first $1,000. What was the plan and what was the kind of forward thinking in terms of getting the next clients?
So what's interesting is around March, and you know this, around March, that's when coronavirus hit, and then all the live events just suddenly just disappeared. So much for my strategy of meeting clients at live events. So um, I was also in the Justin and Seven Talk copy group, and my strategy from there uh, was literally just to prospect every day and to write every day. Like just continue to get better at copywriting and just look for people every day who are looking for copywriters. And I wasn't so good at I wasn't that good at outreach. Like I wasn't even. I remember I did it for a little bit. Like I like would message people first on Facebook and stuff, just looking for clients. But what really helped me was just getting the low hanging fruit of people who are like, hey, like I'll pay somebody $1,000 to do this, or hey, I'll pay like the in your group. That was actually my second copywriting gig. Like my copywriting career went from like this to like this when Stefan posted an opportunity for the RNBC buyers to write for a skincare product, and he was going to pay every copywriter who made it 10 copywriters, $5,000, and then whoever's what letter they choose, they get $2,500. And that was right after I bought RNBC, and like I applied to that. I actually got the job, and I think that was also in April. Yeah, this was like the same month I got my first client. Um, Literally just from writing every day. Like it really, I tell people this all the time. Just write every day. It works. I got that job, so that was a guaranteed 5K. And on top of getting the job, I actually won that contest. So I
Oh
got
wow.
another $100. So I was like, it was a really good May. Like that was it really went from 0 to just like 60 to like 90 very, very fast. And I'm still wondering how that happened, but that's how my copy career started in 2020, just getting back into it in 2018.
I mean, I think you are a good testament to how simple the process really is. It's not easy, but it is simple. It's write every day. It's get feedback on your writing, and you incrementally get better every single day. I mean, a lot of people try to shortcut it. It's like they want to know how to get clients, yet they don't have any copy skills yet. It's like you're not going to get any clients if you have no skills whatsoever. The onus is on you to get some skills to get started. Um, and then you can kind of pick up clients that way. Um, and you hustled too, like you said, go to that event with your copy in hand that you've already written and just getting that first $1,000 gig. I mean, that's one of those things too for a lot of people that like I remember the first dollar I ever made online and thinking like it was I was just shocked. Like it was all just a pipe dream. Like I was just working so hard for months and months and months. And then like when I actually made some money, it really was shocking because that's when it becomes real. That's when you're like, holy shit, like this actually is
Yeah.
real. Like, because the whole time you're kind of skeptical that this is actually true. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know, are people actually really making money doing this? Um, yeah, so that's kind of interesting to hear that first gig went like that. So I'm kind of curious. So 2020 turned out to be this really damn good year for you income wise. You made a huge leap from where you were. And all this despite everything going on with coronavirus and everything being restricted in terms of traveling and going to events and stuff like that. Um, did you go after retainer clients or you just keep doing kind of more of one-off uh, copywriting clients?
So I kept doing one-off copywriting clients, and that that just happened to work for me. Um, there's a problem with that, and I eventually looked for a retainer client, and I got one that could like give me consistent work because if you go a month without finding like a long form gig, then you have a $0 month. And I think I had one in I had like the first, like my only $0 month was, I think it was November. And it was like after like my biggest month ever. Like then my next month I made $0. And then before, like I made an insane amount of money. So like you got to have consistency. That was like the biggest problem with and there's also a lot of fear too. It's like, okay, like what if I don't find a client this month? You know, it's always, I don't recommend it, but it did work for me. Like I just kept getting hired for stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it is really nice. I almost kind of look at it like a stock portfolio, like, or any type of investment portfolio, like purely freelancing and just trying to get new clients every single month is pretty risky. And like you said, it's pretty like anxiety inducing because you never know, because you can have that great month and then you can also have two shit months and then all of a sudden you're like freaking out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's basically like if you put all your money into crypto and you're just like rolling the dice and hoping it goes up and then it drops 30% and you're like having a fucking heart attack. Whereas the consistency of that retainer client for a lot of copywriters is really nice. Like even if you just have that one retainer client at, let's say, a couple grand a month, and then you have other freelance ones, then you have some sense of stability and some sense of kind of consistent income each month.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Um, so I'm curious. I know you tend to write in a couple different niches. Are there any you found so far that uh, you've actually really liked? Some that are like really hitting home with you?
That's a really good question. I'm still writing for a lot of niches, but I'd say that the niche I'm the best at right now is, and like, yeah, that is what I found. Like, I found like there are certain niches that I just write, I'm just good at writing for. So one is health. That's where I've had like my best converting sales letter is in the health space. Um, and anytime I apply it to like a health, like let's say somebody's looking for someone to write them a health long form letter and I apply to that gig, even if I don't get it, like 100% of the time, they've at least written back and said, "Hey, man, like it's like we got so many applicants or whatever. Like not this one, but like let's stay in touch just because we're so impressed by your sample or whatever, right?" Um, so yeah, that's interesting. Like and that's something that I tell people too is like there's some things that you're just naturally good at, and that's what you should lean towards. Like just because somebody is successful at something doesn't mean that you should do the exact same thing. Like maybe I'm naturally good as a copywriter because that's like my natural personality, but someone's just a really good media buyer because that's their personality, or they're just a really good, CEO or like whatever you almost have to try different things to see what you're good at. Because before I was a copywriter, I mean, I tried a lot of other things to make money online before doing closing. Like I think the first thing I ever tried was being an affiliate marketer when I was like 16 and didn't know how to make any money on the internet. That was like the first thing I got into, and I just failed miserably. I tried a lot of stuff. Like this is not the first thing I tried. This is probably like the sixth thing I tried.
Nice. Um, Going back to, so you mentioned a little bit about the having the down months. And I think that's one of the things every newer copywriter in their first, second year struggles with is there's just a lot of struggles. There's financial struggles. There's doubting yourself struggles. I'm kind of curious, what are some of the things you've been struggling with, let's say over the last year or since you kind of started with copy?
I'd say the biggest thing is literally consistency. Like, because I just take big projects. Like I'll just like write a sales letter, big paycheck or whatever, right? But it's like, okay, like if I don't find something, I don't make money. So it's still like a eat what you kill thing. Another big struggle is like not letting my expenses creep up with my income. Because after I wrote that, so after I got hired after my first client to write a sales letter, and I won that contest, I got like 7,500 for that. I was like, okay, you know what? If I make another 5 grand, I'm moving out. And then my next client hired me for 5 grand to write him a whole sales funnel. And then I moved to Miami and moved out. And that was like, I still think that's the best decision I ever made. Like that was a great decision. And the problem is like, I'm also in copy. So the thing is, the combination of the inconsistency and my expenses creeping up, like I'm literally forced to keep on, producing income. So that's why finding a retainer client really helped. Like finding someone who just like needed consistent YouTube ads or like something else. While I'm looking for sales leader gigs, helped me out a lot. That was the biggest struggle, I'd say.
I mean, it's a very, very common struggle among, I mean, I literally did the exact same thing right when I was starting out. Like I went from that guy who was making 20K a year, then had a 30K a year, then out of nowhere I had like $115,000 a year. And all of a sudden, like my expenses went up pretty much in line with my income. And I'm sitting there wondering why is my bank account the same as it was when I was making 30K a year? Like,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
real problem.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, you see it with everything too. It's like the guy who gets his rookie contract in the NFL and all of a sudden buys his mom a house, buys himself a house, buys a sick car, gives his agent 10%, and all of a sudden he doesn't have a whole lot of money left. He's wondering where the hell it all went. Yeah, you really do got to kind of keep the expenses low those first couple of years while your income's going up if you truly want to be able to kind of save some of that money.
Yeah, and that's what I've been moving towards, is like also like moving money towards investments and having a long-term strategy, because it sounds ridiculous. Like I remember literally hearing this when I was making like 10K a year, and I'm just like, how can your expenses go? Like, what do you even spend 5-10 grand a month on? Like, I'm getting by on $1,000 a month, and that's a lot. Like, it sounded so ridiculous, but like it's real. Like you find a way.
Very real. Yeah.
You find a way.
When I was around your age, I was living in an apartment that cost $250 a month. That was basically a closet that was turned into a bedroom, which was the room I was staying in. And I didn't have any problem with it. Like I didn't think anything of it. I was like, yeah, whatever. Like it's just a room. Yeah, now my mortgage is, I don't know, 25, 30 times that. And but I mean, yeah, like things kind of become normal. Like I used to always think I had a buddy, I remember I saw him buy a $80 rag and bone t-shirt. This is probably like 10 or 15 years ago, probably like 10 years ago. And I remember just thinking in my head, I was like, I don't care how much money I'm gonna make. I'll never buy an $80 t-shirt. I'm like, that's insane. And now I have like a closet full of t-shirts that cost $120 and I don't like think anything of it. Yeah, it is cool because when you level up, you kind of get a new normal. And that's obviously a good thing. But you do need to keep the spending, the expenses in check. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a really good point. And far more people struggle with it than you think. So let's dive into, all right, so you got multiple clients going, you're kicking ass in your first year of copywriting. What's the next 6 months, maybe 12 months look like for you? Do you want to go out and create your own offer? Do you want to keep writing copy for clients? What's that look like for you?
That's a good question. That's what I thought about in January, what my plan was. What I want to do, I like freelancing, but at the same time, I'm still open to having, if I ever want to have my own list, because I know that would also be a smart thing to do. Is I can earn a lot more from writing for myself. But the thing is, like I don't always like doing things just for money. That's the thing. Like I won't start an offer just to start an offer, right? And I also hear that it's a lot harder than it looks on the front end. Like, you look at it and you're like, oh, I can make 10 times more writing for myself. Let me start an offer. And then I talk to a lot of people who start their own offer, and they're like, yeah, man, it's not as simple as it looks. Like it's like a lot more goes into it than the copy. Like you actually have to learn how to like run a business. So that's why I'm not too eager to have my own offer. But if I did do that, it wouldn't just be for money. Like it would be because like it's something that I would have a lot of fun doing, right? Because like I said, like I just have to have fun doing what I'm doing. That's so important to me. So if it's a reason other than money, then I'm happy to just write for myself. So that's why I'm always open to it, because I'm always open to realizing, hey, I have more fun doing this. Let me just do that instead. But my plan in the next 6 months is really just to be more selective with my clients. That's the most important thing. Is just picking clients who have an entrepreneurial mindset and want me to have a mindset where they want me to grow with them. I think that's going to be the best move for me as a freelancer, to work with those entrepreneurial minded people. And also just people who have great products, right? Because if you have great marketing and it's backed by a great product that really delivers, then, you know, it's a lot better than writing, you know, made up stories for something that you don't really believe in, right? So it's just being more selective with my clients in the next 6 months.
Yeah, I mean that's really important. And the one thing you mentioned I want to hit on is the enjoyment of it. Um, no amount of money is worth doing something that you don't actually enjoy doing. So sticking with projects and clients and stuff that you actually enjoy, super important. It's one of those things I think a lot of people get away from because the money on certain projects is just so shiny. They jump to that. But yeah, finding stuff you really truly enjoy writing about and actually enjoy doing, highly recommend keeping that in mind as you filter for the products. Um, Last question here. So you've been a member of Copy Accelerator Lite now uh, for a little while. If somebody's watching this and they were thinking about joining or potentially joining, um, what would you say to them about it?
I would just say get clear on why you want to join. Like for me, I knew that I went in with the mindset of, okay, I'm gonna if I'm joining this, it's because I'm gonna, you know, be a six-figure copywriter, right? I'm not gonna join this and worry about what it costs or whatever. Like I'm joining it with the mindset of like people who are in this mastermind, you know, they go like this. And like that's exactly what happened. I joined in May and this year I kind of went like this, right? And that was my mentality. So I'd say if you're thinking about it, just what do you want? Like is if you're a freelance copywriter like I was, I guess I can only really speak to that. Um, it's for people who really want to go like this. And if that's what you want, go into it with that mentality. And just don't play not to lose, just play to win. Honestly, that's my advice.
I like that. I like that, man. Awesome. So we're gonna wrap up. If you're watching this and you're not on my private email list yet, you can do that at justin123.com. Super easy to remember. Just go to justin123 and you can apply and get on my email list. If you like the content like we're doing on this video, you'll probably love my email list. So I recommend you get on there. Jazz, super proud of to see all of your accomplishments in the last year, going from 10K to 70K is no small task, my man. So you should definitely be proud of that. I mean, for a guy as young as you are, like you got such a bright future. I always look at guys like you and Ed and stuff like that. I'm very jealous because you guys are way ahead of where I was at that age. So keep it up, man. You're on a great path.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Awesome, man. Take care.
All right. Yeah, you too, man.